Ayan, ayan. Nandyan pa ba kayo? Live tayo ngayon. Follow up tayo doon sa issue ng endorsement ni Pangulong Duterte sa election na ito. Saan ba tataya ang ating Pangulo, si PRRD? Saan ba siya? Kasi sabi nung isa, I think si Martin Andanar na letter U. Sino ba yan? Si ano ba yan? Si Marcos, as in Marcos Aurelius ba? Or well, may U naman si Pacquiao. Ayan, may U naman si Pacquiao. Or ito ba ay Lenny Robredo. So, U ba or Lacson? Ang ano ba kung letter U? Or sabi letter O din once, no, si Pangulong Duterte mismo, or Isko Moreno. If letter O naman, mukhang lahat naman tong mga to pasok. Well, I hope sana naman yung 7-Eleven hindi ito endorsement ng any brand. Next time, hindi lang yung mga top 5 candidates. Sana naman si Calyodi and other candidates yung lagay nyo. Especially si Calyodi, kamusta naman? Dami niyang effort, no? Oo, bakit ganun yung picture ni Isko? Parang pinatanda siya, no? Parang, ano ba yon? So yon, ang letter U daw, or kung letter U, so Isko, Lacson, well, si Pacquiao, pasok. Leno, Marcos Aurelius. So medyo Roman ang magiging mangyayari diyan. So ano po ang magiging endorsement ni Tatay Digong? Alam natin na si Isko ay pumoposisyon na matagal na para makuha yung endorsement ni Pangulong Duterte. Kaya nga dyan si Lito Banayo. Is that strategy working, or has that strategy backfired big time, no? So far, it looks like the latter than the former. Mukhang hindi pa nag-work so far. But let's see. Pasok ba si Isko doon sa description ni Pangulong Duterte doon sa mga preferred niyang magsaksit sa kanya, or baka naman dinidescribe lang niya yung sariling anak na pwede maging next vice president, at baka express lane ba ang gusto niya mangyari, or baka naman, ito ang ini-endorse ni Pangulong Duterte. Pero implicitly, ano ba talagang mangyayari? Or sa dulo, parang tayo si Pacquiao eh. Or baka sa dulo naman, talagang balik sa first love daw. Since yung tatay naman nito daw, best president ever, sabi ni President Duterte. So ano ba talagang mangyayari dito? Ano na, saan na ba tayo tataya? Sabi ni tatay, di ba? So, mag-isip tayo ng saan pupunta ito. Calyodi, pwede na pumasok, letter O, pero hindi dun sa letter U. So, ayan tayo kay Tatay Digong. You know, what's interesting is they always talk about President Duterte, of course, yung partisan at empresarios niya, na he's a very decisive leader and all of that. Pero tingnan mo naman, decisive pa siya. Parang ang daming bagay dyan, hindi siya nakapag-decision on time, or sobrang delayed, or sobrang off tangent. At kung decisive siya, di sana nag-decide na sila dun sa Team Duterte, or convince Bongo to be VP of Sara. Di sana Sara ngayon ang nasa front runner level ngayon, di ba? Di sana yun ang mangyari ngayon. Pero napaka-indecisive ni Pangulong Duterte on so many issues, but especially dun sa elections, ayan, nag-election drama, nag-substitution, right, left, right, left, right. Sa dulo, wala rin, sablay. Tuloy, yan ang nagiging front runner. At mukhang hindi masyadong excited si Pangulong Duterte dyan, kaya nagpaparinig siya na who knows, di ba? Who knows, baka dito, baka dyan, baka dito, baka dyan. May mga pa nga si Pangulong Duterte, di ba? May mga pa siya na parang may isang kandidato daw na corrupt daw, ganun, tapos wala naman siyang pahabol. So ano yun? Mukhang si Pangulong Duterte mahilig talaga sa mga tolits, no? Mahilig mag-tolits yan. So far, wala pa tayong clarity. Ano pong mangyayari talaga dito sa mga endorsement game ni Pangulong Duterte. Ang akin lang naman, ang payo ko lang dyan, baka naman po, magiging irrelevant na yung endorsement niyo kung talagang lalampas tayo sa critical phase ng election na ito, di ba? Di ba? Mahirap na yan. Baka kung lampas tayo sa critical phase ng election na yan, baka kahit sino i-endorse ni Pangulong Duterte, wala rin. Effect, di ba? So, kailangan niya mag-decision sooner than later. More or less, I think, before the end of this month, dapat mag-decision siya. Kasi, if if maalala niyo, in 2016, it was around this time na President Duterte was surging na. And by April, he already crystallized his front-runner position. In this case, Bongbong Marcos' lead is even bigger, no, than what President Duterte was able to build, by April of last presidential election. So, tignan natin kung ano talagang mangyari dito. Ngayon, of course, may nakita tayo na si Kitty Duterte, no, the presidential daughter with Ma'am kay Lenny tayo, yung video na nakita natin na nag-TikTok ba yon? Nag-release ng video na parang kay Lenny tayo, nagsasayaw yata si Kitty. Ewan ko. I mean, I don't follow her on TikTok or anything. Oh, by the way, please follow me on TikTok. Medyo nag-feeling naman tayo na feeling bagets. Kaya nagpo-post na rin tayo sa TikTok. Paki-follow ako sa TikTok, ha. Yan, pangalan ko rin, Richard Haydarian dyan. Richard Haydarian 007, of course, di ba? Swabe tayo dyan. So, meron tayong mga snippets ng mga meta natin dyan at hopefully, hindi ko pa masyado na-figure out yung TikTok, but hopefully, we can put something aside from politics and all. So far, medyo snippets lang na analysis natin nilalagay natin dyan. Mga 50,000 likes lang naman meron tayo so far. I-push pa natin yan, di ba? Para medyo 100,000 pa na tayo kahit hindi tayo masyadong TikToker, di ba? Yan po ang gagawin natin. Kaya, ewan ko, ang daming paramdam na nangyayari. Si Kitty, si Evardone, tapos may mga nandyan sa PDP laban. Ano ba talaga ito, no? At para sa akin, just like what happened last year, no? Sa sobrang indecisive ni Pangulong Duterte, the ship sailed. So, Bongbong took over as the de facto administration bet. But nonetheless, things could still change in the coming... na-delete na ba yung TikTok na yan? Ewan ko, baka lang. Alam mo naman mga yan, di ba? Lang. Tuloy, nag-trending on Twitter. Diba? Nag-trending on Twitter. So, yon. Ayan, si Noel Duterte, yung pamangkin na medyo critical. Ayan, sige. So, yon. Of course, para kay Pangulong Duterte, if you're President Duterte, what is your concern right now? Diba? You have a number of concerns. On one hand, of course, concern mo is may itutuloy ba yung inyong legacy policies, yung war on drugs, yung infrastructure development, pivot to China, or so-called pivot to China. Well, tingnan natin sa mga kandidato dito, sinong pinakamalapit dyan? Well, mukhang pinakamalapit dyan ay, I would say, Marcos and Isko, di ba? Ang pinakamalapit dyan in terms of policy continuity. But even these two folks have made it clear na hindi ganun kabara-barang gagawin nilang sa war on drugs at hindi sila sang-ayon doon sa EJK. Kasi kung si Lenny, mukhang medyo malayo ang magiging policy niya. The other thing, of course, which is even a bigger concern for President Duterte is potential for political persecution or even prosecution by the International Criminal Court, no? Doon sa mga alleged extrajudicial killings and other forms of abuse of power. At alam natin yung ating sistema is not very friendly to ex-presidents. Medyo mala South Korea tayo pagdating dyan, no? Yung hostility to recent ex-presidents. Tingnan mo yung mga last 3 presidents natin. Either nakulong, or na-house arrest, or na-harass, etc. So, if you're President Duterte, you're gonna think very carefully about it. And what's interesting is this, President Duterte is not pushing it. He's not running for another term. He's not trying to change the constitution. Or maybe he tried, but he failed. But he's staying 6 years and then he's stepping down. Does that make him a dictator then? Does that make him a temporary dictator? Does that make him a transitionary dictator? Or what does that make him? Or does it make him just another Filipino president with more authoritarian, populist, bent or streak? Kasi kung dictator, dapat hindi lang isang term. Dapat pinalitan yung saligang batas, nag-extend over 6 years. Tingnan mo si Putin, ilan years na? Ka-level niya na si Ferdinand Marcos over 22, 21 years na. Do? At nakikita natin, the one big problem we have right now is ayaw bumaba si Putin. He wants to stay there for life. Kaya kung ano-anong ginagawa niya to stay relevant, pa-relevant siya. Ngayon, ba't itong giyera sa Ukraine? He's trying to create a new drama and narrative to, shore up his support base. Kung siguro may democracy in Russia, medyo iba yung situation. I mean, genuine democracy, no? Hindi lang may election para alam natin sino manalo, di ba? So going back to here, I mean, how do you even define President Duterte? Is he a Oriental despot, a la Karl Marx definition? Is he a kind of a failed autocrat? How do you want to put it? Is he a misunderstood president, as some of his supporters want to put it? But anyways, mukhang he's gonna step down unless something again happens, no? Before mag-take over yung next president. Kasi president pa rin si Pangulong Duterte until June, right? Okay. So, let's see. But so far, mukhang bababa si Pangulong Duterte in the coming months. And, I mean, if you're President Duterte, you're gonna worry about a number of things, though. At kasama dyan, anong mangyari dun sa allegations of extrajudicial killings, yung mga abuses, formally, among others na pwede itapon sa kanya, or they could hang around his neck like a rope, no? So if Lenny mananalo, medyo baka problema siya. Now, the Lenny team has made it clear na if ever they get endorsement of President Duterte, if they get the endorsement of President... Actually, meron akong ganun from 2016 pero yung mas malaki, yung pang ano lang, pang juice lang. Dun sa mga kandidato hanapin ko yan. Baka dyan yan, mga memorabilia yan Oo. So, kung si Lenny naman manalo, naku po, medyo... I'm not sure. I mean, the Lenny camp has made it clear. Okay, if you endorse us, then so be it. But walang strings attached, no? Walang transaction na mangyari dyan, no? So, yun. Ayun. So I don't know. What's the incentive for President Duterte to endorse even Lenny? Kaya nga, medyo malabo yan. But, yun nga, the bigger question is, why is he not endorsing Bongbong Marcos? Medyo malapit na. Dahil ba hindi na kailangan? Dahil ba hindi niya gusto? Ano ba talaga, diba? At the other question is, what happened to the Lito Banayo strategy? I thought dapat Isko would be the kind of a 2.0, no? Or magiging, talagang real candidate of Duterte or something. That's not also working very well, it seems, for them, no? So, tingnan natin what's going on here, no? So, let's see what latest na naman mga pakulong mangyari sa ating politika. My goodness, I mean, our politics is a politics of spectacle. At the rate we're going, di ba mayroon ng presidential debates ng COMELEC soon? Pinapa-confirm ko kung attend ba si BBM or as usual, no-show na naman siya. Kasi gusto lang niya magpa-interview or pa-debate dun sa mga alam na natin saan, di ba? Na, mga alam na. Can you imagine? We could have the next president, vice president. We didn't even bother to attend a single real debate, hosted by world-class journalists and world-class experts. I mean, ano na nangyayari sa ating bansa? Ang laki nga ng problema ng demokrasya natin. Ang kailangan talaga mag-mature yung democracy natin. Tapos lalo pang na ganun ngayon. Parang new lows na naman nangyayari sa atin. Tapos happy pa yung mga iba na nananalo ang candidate nila na effortless. Ganun. So, what does that say about our democracy? So, yun. Ay. At the same time, nakikita natin dyan sa... sige, bago ako pumunta sa ibang topic. Yan na naman. Ito na naman tayo, dun sa mga Google Trends. Bakit walang AB class? Let me say, for the nth time, ang class AB po ay napakaliit na portion ng ating voting block. Baka wala pang 1% yan. So, it's almost statistically insignificant. Sino pa yung mga Class A, B? Ito yung mga nasa DASMA, nasa Forbes, nasa ano. Yes, they may have influence outside the voting question, but they're so small in terms of actual numbers that their impact is very limited. So, let's not try to, discredit a whole survey because walang A, B. Napakaliit lang ng... In fact, C talaga yung big factor talaga dyan because the C is relatively bigger, more than potentially 10% at least of the actual voting block. So, statistically significant sila, di ba? Ito kasi, naano ako dyan Ito na naman mga pinipilit naman. You don't win an election by wishful thinking or wishing away facts. That's not how you win. Tapos yung Google Trends naman, ito na naman tayo. Sabi ko, mag-invento na naman ng mga analytics dyan. Ang Google Trends po ay nakaka-capture ng interest level. Just because, for instance, interested ako to research about Putin, does that mean that I support him? Not necessarily. In fact, it could be the complete opposite. And nagsulat ako ng libro about Trump. Nasaan na yung libro na yan? Does that mean I'm interested in, I support Trump? Of course not. Diba? So just because I search someone on Google, ito. So, porque nagsulat ako about Trump or may libro ako kay Trump, ibig sabihin ba, I'm gonna support him politically, or if I would vote for him. No, of course not. Common sense yan. So, wag natin i-confuse yung interest with electoral preference. The two are not necessarily the same. Now, nonetheless, of course, Google Trends shows that at least medyo may wave na medyo may interest wave ang nangyari. So mukhang the Lenny team are doing something right in terms of generating overall interest. But converting to that into electoral preference is another thing. And the two are not necessarily going to follow each other. Diba? Ito na tayo eh. So wag tayo magganon. If you look at all surveys, they show very similar outcome if the election were held this month. Of course, it's not going to be held this month, so may time pa. And of course, dun sa Pulse Asia, covered niya until 3rd week of February. So hindi niya na-cover yung mga latest na nangyari, yung mga wave of support, grand rallies, etc. But even the biggest grand rallies, kahit yung 500,000 daw na grand rally, ay, drop in the, bucket yan compared sa tens of millions na boboto sa election na ito. No? So 40, 50 million or even more. So again, di ba? Yan tayo eh. Yan tayo eh. Sometimes yun ang problema sa opposition. Kulang sa proper strategic thinking. Puro na lang either denialism or pinipilit yung hindi na gumagana, yung mga old narratives, old style. It's not working. Ano ba talaga? Pipilitan mo, babalik-baliktaran mo yung mga survey, atake mo. It doesn't work that way. That's not how you win an election. You think the Democrats were able to beat Trump by forcing yung Google Trends case? Hindi. Because Biden was losing to Trump sa Google Trends, di ba? Pagdating sa interest level. Do you think they did that by attacking the surveys of MSNBC and Fox, even Fox News and all? Not necessarily. That's not what they did. What they did was grassroots mobilization. Mobilization and political strategy dun sa swing state. Getting critical politicos and demographics in crucial parts of the country. Mature tayo. Eye on the ball. Huwag pilitin. In fairness naman dun sa mga surveys sa Publicus Asia, mukhang Lenny's doing better and the fight is much closer than in the Pulse Asia survey. But I have to double check yung date ng Publicus. Baka mas cover ng Publicus yung latest. So, I won't be surprised. Siguro yung next Pulse Asia shows a much closer fight. But will it be close enough? Can Bongbong drop 10 points, 20 points? Can Isko and Lenny go up 10 points, 20 points? Diba? So, the next 2 weeks I think are very crucial because sa tingin ko kung hindi magka-close yung gap in the next the next 2 weeks or so, it's very hard to see how things can dramatically change in April. I mean, I think this is the October surprise time for the Philippines. It's not April, it's actually March for us, base dun sa mga nakikita natin in the past. But again, ito gumalaw. Medyo malalim yung hinga ko eh. Ay. Anyway, bahala kayo. If you want to insist on alternative facts, bahala kayo dyan. That's not how you win elections. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Ito na. Okay. Now, let's talk about something very different. And something that, of course, I've been covering quite closely over the past few weeks. And yun yung situation sa Europe, So, most recently, nakita natin, the Biden administration cleared $13.6 billion for Ukraine in terms of assistance for Ukraine. Ang laki pa ng suporta ng US sa Ukraine ngayon, even though hindi nila kaalyado ng Ukraine, And we saw 3 NATO member, EU member leaders visiting in person via train yung Kiev, to meet Zelensky. Huge support. And Europe is now imposing even stricter sanctions on Russia now. So much so na yung China na supposed ally and friend ng Russia, biglang nagkakamot. So if you look at the commentaries by 2 of the leading prominent experts sa China, one of them published a piece on New York Times. Parang issue dyan is how to ditch essentially problematic ally, kasi naging alliance of inconvenience na ito. So, if reliability is an issue, how reliable has China been to Russia or will be to China in the long run? Because, yes, China might still buy from Russia, but at heavily discounted rates. But with very flexible financial terms, no, on very flexible financial terms. Kawawang Russia dyan. Actually, maawa ka sa Russia. I mean, again, I have nothing against the Russian people. I love the Russian culture. I love Russian history. No, makikita nyo dyan, lahat ng mga Russian novels na binabasa ko, I have absolute respect and love for the Russian civilization and all of that. But it's also clear that the latest geopolitical gambit has been a massive, massive failure. Yes, Ukraine is paying a heavy price for the grandstanding of some folks, but Ukraine is resisting very effectively. And that is making even the Chinese think twice. Basahin niyo yung Washington Post op-ed ng Chinese ambassador sa United States. Essentially, sinasabi niya, ay parang naloko kami dito, hindi namin alam na susugod sila. Basahin niyo, ayaw niyo maniwala. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna post it down doon sa comment section later on. Basahin niyo, kayo mismo magbasa ng sinasabi ng mga Chinese top leaders and thinkers ukol sa sitwasyon ngayon. So thanks to the resistance of Ukraine, even China is a little bit thinking twice about it. Now, India is, of course, also going to buy from Russia because they need the Russian technology and all of that. But good luck, you know. I mean, can they buy big enough to compensate for Europe, even with China, with all the sanctions on Russia? Let's see. But if they're going to buy, it's going to be very discounted. So again, kawawa yung national interest ng Russia dyan because they'll be forced to barter trade, at bargain price. And I'm not sure that's the best for Russia. And in fact, there's a suspicion that China will ask Russia for huge concessions, including access to Arctic shipping lanes, potentially building bases or some facilities in the Arctic area where China wants to be present as a near neighbor. And they might even ask access to technology of Russian technology, the most advanced Russian military technology, including nuclear submarines capable of launching intercontinental ballistic missiles. So, not looking good for Russia. Not looking good for Russia. You know, if yes, maybe India and China will still buy from them, but will it be enough to compensate? I don't think so. Are they going to buy it with good price and terms? I don't think so. Are they going to juice out an isolated ally? Right? So, ayan. Sana naman, tatay, medyo, follow up naman tayo sa mga nangyari along the more. Hindi lang bashing of the Western na ito. Medyo, i-expand natin yung horizons natin. Medyo level up yung analysis, no? Hindi mga blogger level lang. So, yon. So, marami pa nangyari. Now, ayon kay President Volodymyr Zelensky, mukhang the negotiations with Russia are going in the right direction. Mukhang Russia is a little bit softening their stance on a number of issues. Volodymyr Zelensky is offering to not keep Ukraine constitutionally committed to joining NATO, but he is asking for EU membership. So economically, culturally, socially, politically, they want to be towards the Western Europe, but not military-wise necessarily. So let's see about that. That has some complication too. You know what? Because being a member of EU, meron isang article dyan sa EU membership na kung meron ka member and something happens dun sa member nyo, parang alam NATO na may obligasyon ng lahat ng EU members to still support it. So I don't know how they're gonna square that circle. But Zelensky essentially saying, well, if concern mong NATO, we're not gonna join NATO anymore. So bakit ka pa sumusugot? No? So now they're putting the burden on Russia and let's see how the negotiations go. But the better the Ukrainians resist Russians. And base sa mga ibang reports nakita natin, up to half of Russian forces out of that 150, 200,000 either in jeopardized or in very difficult situation. And I think this is very difficult also for China to watch because the technology of military of China is very similar to Russia. So if Russia cannot take care of Ukraine, then I'm not sure how China can take care of